What's up, guys? It's Toad. I feel like I was just here. I was just doing this. You guys call me insane, obviously. It's late night. I just did the college football week 9 video, and I'm doing NFL week 8 right now. I'm going to get into it. I have 3 NFL plays, and I'm trying to restrain myself. I hated that 0-4 that happened last week. I was 2-2 in college football last week. I forgot to mention that on my college football show. I forgot to mention it in the when I was doing the post-mortem of those college football plays. Because I had a good Saturday of 5-2 because I went 3-0 in the non-college football plays that I had. But the Oklahoma loss that I took last week against South Carolina, was it South Carolina? I think so. Oklahoma was -4 in turnovers in that game, man. So maybe they still deserve to lose the game, but that game is a lot closer than the final score looked, at the very least. And then I already rehashed all the NFL losses, so I'm on a bad 0-7 NFL loss streak. So let's get with it, man. I mean, I'm actually passing on a couple of spots that I think are pretty decent sandwich spots this week, at least for now, to go with what I think are maybe the better situations and the better spots here. 3 NFL plays for me this week. As I mentioned, I already mentioned the first one on my show today. Was it today? This morning? I think I did, but I'm going to be on the Thursday night game. I always talk about the Thursday night game anyway, but this is one I'm actually playing. The LA Rams +3. It looks like the +3s are actually still out there, so you can get that. Let's share the screen. Why don't we? It looks like it's back. Like the -3s are actually back right now, with public coming in on the Vikings as we move into Thursday. 72% of the tickets and only 57% of the cash. Public is only going to play the Vikings based on what they've seen out of the Vikings so far this year. I mean, you can go watch what I said about this game this morning or whatever it was, whichever video it was. I don't even remember, but my thoughts are obviously the same on this Vikings-Rams game. And I've done pretty well on Thursday nights, man. I don't think I've bet any of the Thursday night games yet, but I think I've only lost maybe 2 of them in my pick'em pools. And those also correspond with my leans for the most part on the show as well. So I think I've been right about all but 2 of them. In this one, I mean, Minnesota, I think they're in a bad spot, man. Minnesota, they're coming off that crazy game where I unfortunately lost. I thought it was a good spot. Minnesota lost to the Detroit Lions, man. I mean, that is a big game. Detroit overtook them as far as the division standings currently sit. Just kind of a brutal way to lose that game for Minnesota, man. I mean, they had made the comeback because they were losing earlier. They came back, they took the lead, and then they gave up a game-winning field goal to the Lions. Replacement kicker Bates, right near the end. Very, very difficult way for Minnesota to lose that game, man. It's a huge game, a huge battle, and to lose that way right at the end. And not only that, but they were undefeated, man. So a lot of times when you take that first loss, especially if it's in a big step-up game that you get up emotionally for big time, and you lose like that right at the end against basically the team that you're fighting for the division, although Green Bay is certainly in the mix as well. Chicago, as I'll talk about in a minute, I don't think quite is there on the level of what these other teams are doing. I really think it's actually Detroit and Green Bay, with Minnesota actually being slightly worse than those teams are. But Minnesota, I think that type of loss can hang you over, man. You can a lot of times lose that game twice when that game is your first loss of the season, and it was in such a big step-up game. And not only that, but now Minnesota has to go out to L.A. They have to go out to the Pacific Coast for the first time they're doing so this year, and for a primetime game. So it's a late game, so it's going to be late as far as their biological clock is concerned. It's going to be because they're 2 hours difference, so it's going to be basically going until 11 p.m., almost midnight their time, basically. So that's not easy to do either. And on a shortened week, when you're going to an unfamiliar venue like this, man, and playing a team you don't play a lot, the road team tends to have a disadvantage in these short weeks on Thursday night. And that's even without factoring in the fact they're coming off such a huge game. So quick turnaround time like this, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to get back off the mat that quickly and focus, and have to go all the way out there to L.A. and play against the Rams. And meanwhile, the Rams, I think they're in a nice spot to play a good game here, because they came back from a bye. That bye happened at a pretty good time for them, I would say. It broke a loss streak for them. It kind of helped them as far as their injury situation is concerned. This Rams team has a lot of injuries. I think they did get a little bit healthier on defense, at least, even though I don't think their wide receivers are coming back yet. It looks like Kupp might be coming back like next week or something like that. And Nakua, I have no idea. But it is still Matthew Stafford. I mean, he still has a few guys that he can throw to there. Their rushing attack has actually still been pretty good, even though I said it wasn't good earlier this year. Kyron Williams, I think he's better than I thought he was. He's not that bad. This Rams team, they haven't faced an easy schedule either, man. I mean, like the worst team that they've faced all season is the Raiders in that most recent game where they won. And other than that, it was, I guess, the Cardinals. They played the Lions, Bears, Packers. So they played basically almost the entire NFC North already. And this is going to be they're completing the cycle in the NFC North already. And hopefully they don't, because I don't want them to go 0-4 against those teams. But those teams are not easy to face. And the Rams have played competitively in every one of those games, man. The worst loss was that one against the Cardinals, which I played the Cardinals in that one. That was a bad spot. The Rams are coming off that big playoff revenge game against the Lions, and they had the 49ers up next. So that was a bad sandwich spot. And if you throw that game out, the Rams have been at least competitive in every other game. And the games that they've lost, they haven't lost by that much besides that. So the Rams have been playing, they've been sticking in these games, basically. And I think after this game against the Raiders, they came out of the bye. It should have been a focus spot for the Rams. The Rams didn't play that well. They capitalized on a bunch of turnovers from, I think, Gardner Minshew came back into that game. My guy, the stash, he has been turning it over too much, man. Minshew, I think he's good. He's been driving that offense. He's got to stop making those mistakes. But Vegas actually played a decent game. I actually kind of undersold that the time when I talked about this game this morning or whatever. But Vegas actually kind of outplayed the Rams in that game, man. So even though it was a good, like, return to form spot, I thought, for the Rams didn't play particularly well there, although they were winning by multiple scores near the end there. And I know Antonio Pierce was getting some shit for kicking a field goal there when they were down 8, and people were like, why is he kicking the field goal from the 9-yard line? Well, it's because it was 4th and 9. He still had all 3 timeouts left and the 2-minute warning still left. So he was going to have to get the ball back. Basically, they were going to have to get a touchdown regardless. So, you're not going to convert a 4th and 9, man. It's highly unlikely, especially with that offense. So that's the whole crux of it there. Kick the field goal. If you fail to convert, you're going to have to get the ball back anyway, and you'd be down 8 instead of 5. So it worked. I think it was the right move, and Vegas did get the ball back one more time. They just still didn't do anything with it after that because their offense has been sucking. So I don't think that was the wrong move by Pierce there. But anyway, the Rams, I think they know they didn't play well in this game. So I think now the Rams are in a bounce back spot here. They're not traveling. They're staying at home. So they have a big travel advantage here because they just get to stay at home, not go anywhere, and try to get things right and refocus a little bit and bounce back from a very lackluster performance against a bad opponent. I like the Rams, man. In this situation, you're getting points at home here like this. Give me the Rams +3. That's the first play there. Play number 1. Ted, what's up, man? I don't know where all the people are who were just in the college football show not that long ago. They can't stay up as late as I do, I guess. They don't have the motors that I do, man, or the caffeine addiction that I do. I'm going to try to get this done quickly, but I am going to talk about some other games that I have not actually played, but I guess I'll talk about some leans here. I lean against the Detroit Lions, and they are extremely public. I think this is a mega sandwich spot, but the problem is, can I bring myself to actually play the Titans? After I've lost these games playing these bad teams like the Carolina Panthers, I don't know if I can play the Tennessee Titans, man, but schedule-wise, this is a bad spot for the Lions. The Lions are up from 9.5 to now 11. 91% of the tickets, but 95% of the cash, so it does look like they have some of the cash coming in on their side, but I don't really put that much stock into that. I do think they're just a very public team, so I would only look to fade the Detroit Lions here. They're coming off a couple of mega wins, man. I mean, they had that big primetime win that looked really good against the Seahawks, and they just destroyed the Dallas Cowboys, which that was a memeable result there, and everybody saw that game. Just laughable, basically. They crushed the Cowboys, and then they didn't suffer a letdown after that either. They showed up for a second straight road game, which I thought wasn't going to be that great a spot, and took over first place in the division by beating the Minnesota Vikings. So that looked great as well. So now they're off of multiple big games in a row. Huge win. They just got into first place in their division. Now they have to face the Tennessee Titans, an AFC team. And look who they have up next. They have to go back out on the road and play the Green Bay Packers, who may actually be the biggest threat in this division for Detroit. So this is a mega NFC North sandwich here, coming off a huge win over the Vikings with the Packers up next and playing an awful Titans team there in the middle of those two games there. So I like the Tennessee side there, but the problem is I'm not playing it. I mean, this looks like it's such a mega sandwich spot that this would be like a toad special, but the market looks a little bit iffy to me just because the line keeps going up. It doesn't mean you're getting more value, though. Like, I like the Tennessee side. I would not play the other side of this at all, but I just don't know if I can quite bring myself to actually do it with Tennessee. Will Levis, I mean, I think he's out. I think he's maybe hurt or something. And they got Mason Rudolph, I think, is probably going to be the starter there. I don't know if he's totally trustworthy either, though. Now they're going to lose DeAndre Hopkins, who he hasn't even been doing that much for them anyway, though, but he's like one of their biggest wide receiver weapons. He's on his way to the Kansas City Chiefs, it looks like. So I just don't know if I can bring myself to do it, but it is a very huge number of points in a very bad spot for the Lions. And the Titans, I mean, they're coming off a blowout loss to the Bills where they were kind of hanging around for a little while, and then they just completely fell apart. This Tennessee defense looks like it's not doing well. I thought the Tennessee defense was pretty good, but against the better offenses they face, it hasn't been good, and Detroit is definitely a good offense. So it worries me a little bit, but I do lean to taking the points with the Titans in that one. It's just a really bad spot for the Lions. Ravens-Browns. Ravens are coming off a Monday night win, so they're on a short week at the very least, and they're a public road favorite here. I don't know if I would want any part of the Browns, though. Ravens down from 9.5 to 9. 89% of tickets and only 84% of the cash. Browns obviously have just been horrendously ugly so far. Baltimore doesn't really have anything big up next. I mean, the Broncos, I know they've been playing okay, but I don't think that's really much of a cause for a look ahead or anything like that. Cleveland, I mean, just they're not really a team you're going to bring full focus for right now. But Cleveland, maybe they're going to be in a decent spot because they're kind of in an injured player theory spot. And I am going to be playing on a team that is in an injured player spot. Cleveland, I mean, they lost Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to be out for the season. He tore his Achilles, and I thought it was really awful the way the crowd was like cheering it on and saying you deserve this and whatever. It's just disgusting. I mean, come on. The guy liked to get some rub and tugs, man. I mean, trust me, if Deshaun Watson was doing really well and lighting it up, the fans would not have had that reaction to him getting hurt, man. It's only because he's been terrible. We all know this. It's not because they actually care about sexual assault allegations or whatever. But I just thought it was terrible that they were doing that anyway. Just not the way that the fan base should react. And that was a game they wound up losing to the Bengals. They brought in DTR, what's his name, Dorian Thompson-Robinson or whatever. For some reason, they brought him in instead of Jameis Winston. I don't know why. Winston is a talented quarterback, man, with a good arm. He just makes mistakes, tries to force it a lot of times. DTR, less talented guy, I think, and he got hurt too. So we got famous Jameis finally, and he led them on a touchdown drive, even though it was too late. Jameis Winston came in and got them a touchdown at the end there. Maybe Cincinnati let up a little bit in that game. That was against Cincinnati. I forgot to even mention that. But still, Cleveland, I mean, they may be in a better spot to maybe play a decent game, man. If Jameis Winston, I think he's probably going to be the starter. It looks like maybe he is. Oh, Browns gained steam from sharp bettors after QB change. There you go. If ESPN says it, well, then there you go. I mean, I do think that is actually an accurate statement, though. I think that some pros are probably coming in, as we saw with the market here. It's less of the cash than the tickets, and the line has dropped a little bit, gone towards the Browns. Injured player theory spot, like I always say, the team tends to step up a little bit in place of that injured player, man. So, and maybe the team didn't love Deshaun Watson. I don't know, but maybe the team is going to rally around Jameis Winston, man. Maybe they like him and they're going to step it up because he is their backup and they're going to want to play for him. So lean to the Browns in that one, not playing it though. Maybe a bit of a stronger lean in Packers-Jaguars. I like the Jaguars side in this one. Packers, it almost looks too easy to take the Packers here, man. They're sitting at -4, 87% of the tickets and only 70% of the cash. Out of all these games, this one was the closest one to making my card, in addition to the ones I'm actually playing. I'm considering it still, really, but it's kind of a sandwich spot, but I don't know if it's quite strong enough for me to want to do it because I think the Packers are still it is still kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out this Packers-Texans game, whether that was actually like a really big game for them or whether they're going to consider it to be more of like a close call. But either way, I mean, I do like the Jaguars here. Like I said, I mean, Packers are getting all the public action here for the most part and less of the cash because, of course, they are. The public's only going to come in on the Packers. Either they're going to come in on the Jacksonville Jaguars. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to come in on Jordan Love, a team that's only lost to the Eagles and Vikings and only lost those games by one score. That's what they're going to do, even though these two games are actually without Jordan Love, with Malik Willis in there. They beat the Colts and the Titans, yeah. But Green Bay, I mean, they're coming off that tough game against the Texans. So Texans played pretty good defense. That was a pretty physical game. Green Bay won. I think they won basically right at the end of the game, if I'm not mistaken, on like a field goal near the end there. Green Bay was able to win that game, pretty big game. Now they have to go out on the road and go down to Florida, to a place they don't usually go to for an out-of-conference game, to face a team that looks pretty bad in the Jacksonville Jaguars that I think just got, their second win of the season, maybe? Is that what it was, or was it their first? No, it was their second because they beat the Colts, my Indianapolis Colts. Never mind, yeah. So Green Bay, but it's just kind of a weird spot, a tough road spot. And then up next, they have Lions, Bears, 49ers all in a row up next. So they have maybe their biggest competition in the division up next, then another divisional opponent, and then the 49ers, the conference champs from last year. So three much bigger games up next and three big conference games up next. With this out-of-conference game against a bad team mixed in here, I think Green Bay might not show up focused for this one, man. The Jaguars, I mean, they're coming off a win, which I think might help. They've won 2 of their last 3 games, so maybe they're finally starting some momentum here. They lost to the Bears in there, but the Bears at least play defense pretty well. Jaguars, I mean, not impressive beating the Colts and the Patriots, really, but still, I mean, that might help them get some momentum and maybe get some confidence because they finally won a couple of games. Maybe that's going to help them get out of their heads a little bit. And yes, they are returning back to the United States from 2 straight games in London. So maybe you think that kind of looks like kind of a bad spot. I believe they declined taking the bye here. Like they had the option to take the bye and they didn't do it. So they don't even have time off. So on the surface, that looks like a bad spot, right? Well, their biological clock has to readjust. They played 2 weeks in London, right? Well, they did that last year. They played 2 weeks in London. They came home and they won the game, which I think was against the Colts. And I think the year before that, they played 1 game in London. Jacksonville returned home and they won the game, which I think was against the Raiders. So the last couple of times that they've done this and they've gone to London, even including last year's 2 straight games in London, upon coming home with no bye in either of those cases either, they actually played fine and they won the game. So they don't play that badly and they're used to it because the Jaguars keep doing this, man. They're like the London team. So with these guys that they have on their roster right now, and I think with the coach Peterson and with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, they've done this multiple years in a row now, so they're used to it. So I don't think that's going to faze them. So I like the Jaguars plus the points in that game. Haven't played it, but thank you, Ted. Ted, you were one of the more polite and chill members of the chat, I will say. Talking about too many of these games, really, to be honest, but maybe I could just comment quickly on some of these. Colts, Texans, I lean to the Colts. My Indianapolis Colts. Texans down from 6-5, 86% in tickets and 66% of cash. So the Texans are public here. Public only coming in on that Houston side, man, because Houston, obviously, I mean, last year they were the better of the 2 teams. This year they're looking like the better of these 2 teams. Public is not going to be coming in and taking the Indianapolis Colts, man, especially with Anthony Richardson there. And that's what kind of worries me about this is Indy has to play him at some point, man, even though I know, even I've been saying they're way better with Flacco. Flacco's playing better than Anthony Richardson is. Yeah, but Richardson, he needs to get experience under his belt, man. There are going to be growing pains with him. Like, you're going to have to do it at some point. If you think he's the quarterback of the future, you're going to have him in there. So Indianapolis seems to be saying we're going to do that now. They still won with him in the last game, and unfortunately for me, I lost on Miami in that one, and Miami probably should have won that game, but maybe we'll see Richardson start getting a little bit better. Who knows? He has played against Houston already, I think, and he hasn't done that bad. I think he played in this home opener, right, of the season. I don't know, but Houston, they've won the last 2 games against the Colts now, and this is pretty major revenge, at least 2 games, including this season opener. But the game before that makes this pretty big revenge because that was a game where the Colts were on the verge of potentially making the playoffs last year, and they played Houston, and they barely lost that game, man. Right near the end of the game, the Colts lost that game. They had Gardner Minshew, and yes, I know, Gardner Minshew. The mistake, man. Been making too many mistakes recently. I think he made a mistake in that game. Actually, I don't think he did. I think it was a dropped wide receiver pass in that game. I think his pass was right on, and the receiver dropped it when it should have been a first down. I think that's how Indy's season ended last year, and that was against Houston. So Indy is still looking for revenge there. And for Houston, they've already beaten the Colts once on the road. So not only is this revenge for the Colts, but this is also, it's playoff revenge for last year, which is big, but it's also in-season divisional road revenge, which is also a decent angle to look for, man. When you have a divisional matchup, a second divisional matchup between 2 teams, and the road team won the first game, and then you have the road team in the other game as an underdog, having lost that game at home earlier in the season, that road underdog tends to be a good way to look. The road reversal revenge scenario. So the Colts are in that situation. And Houston's coming up that big game at Green Bay. Like I said, that was a pretty big game. They've already beaten the Colts once. So I like the Colts in that spot. What else we got? Haven't talked about my actual plays yet either. Cardinals, Dolphins. This is a tough read, but I will point out that it seems like the Dolphins may get Tua back in this game. And if they do, I would think that this line would get higher than it being 3.5 here. It's going to be interesting, man, because the Cardinals are on a short week. They played the slightly later of the 2 games on Monday night, so it's not easy for them to have to go all the way out to the East Coast and play in Miami on a short week. Doesn't look like the best spot for the Cardinals, and they're coming off a win in that Monday night game right at the end over the Chargers. 51% of tickets on the Cardinals, but 54% of the cash on the other side on the Miami side on the Dolphins. So it does look like the market is indicating slightly on the Miami side. I agree with the spot for Miami, and Arizona does have the Bears up next, so that is at least a bigger conference game. But the problem I have with this is that if Tua comes back, you're going to see this line move up. And, well, if you take it now, that's not really a problem because you'll at least get value on it. But once Tua comes back, it's going to be the reverse injured player theory, man. So that's the problem. When that star player comes back, there tends to be like you have to regain chemistry a little bit. You have to work him back in. There tend to be a little bit of like growing pains. You don't like just start typically doing well again, like right out of the gate. Like he has to readjust. The team has to readjust to playing with him again. And if the team was winning, although the Dolphins are not, but if the team was winning without him, there's also kind of like a little bit of complacency. Like, hey, we're already winning, and now we get our guy back, and we're playing this lesser team here. Which that's not the way they're going to think in this game, but a lot of times that tends to be the case, and then they overlook their opponent for that reason as well. But if Tua doesn't play, I think I would lean to the Dolphins in this one. If he does play, maybe I'm not so sure. Falcons have flipped from a 2-point dog to a 2-point favorite. They got a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Tampa. 60% of the tickets, 65% of the cash on the Falcons. So public is kind of in tune to the Buccaneers' injury woes, man. That's why this line is flipped like this. It's because the Buccaneers have cluster injury problems, man. They lost both of their top 2 wide receivers in this Monday night game, so they're on a short week too, and coming off a game against the Baltimore Ravens. It's a pretty brutal physical game. It looks tough for the Buccaneers right now, man. They lost Mike Evans right away in that game, and then they lost Godwin when they were down 10, and it didn't even matter anymore. And Todd Bowles is trying to justify leaving him in there, and he's going to be out for the year, dislocated ankle, and he was my top fantasy wide receiver on my fantasy team in my main league. So isn't that just great? Thanks, Todd Bowles, for leaving him in there when you had no chance of winning the game anyway. Things are not looking good for the Buccaneers. They're going to bring up some of these replacement receivers here, but Mayfield is going to be down his 2 biggest weapons here, man. So this Buccaneers offense could start struggling a bit. And their defense has also had a lot of injury problems throughout the season, too. Their secondary, especially, having a lot of injuries. This is a very banged-up Buccaneers team right now. Usually you don't see the line flip this much just because of injuries unless it's like a quarterback injury, which in this case it's not. But it's just the Buccaneers down 2 star wide receivers pretty much has done that to the line, which is crazy. So is it getting to the point where I think there's then value on the Tampa Bay side? I'm not going to do it. I mean, even though Tampa did lose in that crazy barn burner on Thursday night a few weeks ago on the road at Atlanta. So Atlanta won at home, so it's not a road reversal revenge angle. But Tampa did lose that game, and Tampa probably should have won that game. They outplayed the Falcons for much of that game. The Falcons tied it late and then won in overtime. That was that crazy 500-yard Kirk Cousins game on Matt Ryan night where he broke Matt Ryan's own record. Just really crazy stuff in that game. But, I mean, this Buccaneers team, as I said, now they're missing some key components here. They do have the Chiefs up next, but I don't think they're going to overlook a divisional opponent who beat them already once this season. It's just a matter of, does Tampa even have the personnel to be able to, like, compete in this game very well against the Falcons? I don't know. And the Falcons, they're coming off a real ugly game, or maybe they were overlooking the Seahawks towards this Buccaneers game, man. Atlanta, I think maybe they just finally ran out of steam, which I thought would happen against the Panthers because they had played a bunch of primetime games, 3 primetime games in 4 weeks, and a bunch of good teams in a row there. Schedule not easy for Atlanta. And then I guess it finally came to a head when they played the Seattle Seahawks, and they lost that game badly. And now Atlanta, I think they're in a bounce-back spot now off of that. Not a great game, but Atlanta actually outgained Seattle in that game, so it's a misleading result, too. Atlanta was -3 in turnovers in that game, so the game wasn't really as much of a Seattle blowout as the score makes it look. So I don't really want any part of the Tampa Bay side in that game, really, for any of those reasons that I just mentioned. What do I want to talk about as far as the rest of these games? Most of the rest of these games I didn't find to be interesting. I always talk about the primetime games, but I have a play on Cowboys 49ers, so I am going to talk about that regardless. And yeah, I think that's enough. And then I'll talk about Monday night because I always talk about the primetime games. Giants, Steelers. I mean, this line is just getting to the point where I think it's ridiculous. It's gone up from 4 to 6.5 on the Steelers. Really? Steelers, 6.5. This team with Russell Wilson now at the helm, this team, they're not a good offense, man. I'm not sure that the Steelers should be laying 6.5 against anybody. They got 86% of the tickets on them and 57% of the cash over on the other side on the Giants. So the cash is coming in. It looks like it's shaping up to be one of those pros versus Joes Monday night games where the Joes are laying the points with the Steelers because they like what they see out of the Steelers. The Steelers have been winning games, but they're overlooking the Giants, I think, because the Giants offense is not something the public wants any part of, with Daniel Jones not performing up to what they're paying him. Malik Neighbors has been hurt, though, his best target there. Giants really don't have much of a rushing game because they let Saquon Barkley leave and go to the Eagles. So that Giants offense is not good, but Giants, I still think they're being overlooked by public bettors for the most part because the Giants actually don't have a bad defense, and that gets overlooked. Defense always gets overlooked, man. The offense is what everybody always looks at. But, of course, the Giants are also the team with the way worse record here, so the public is coming in on the Steelers for that reason, too. But, I mean, look at the Giants' losses, and can you really fault them for losses against these teams? The Vikings on the road against Washington, Dallas in a close one in primetime, Bengals. I mean, I know the Bengals haven't been playing that well, but it is still Joe Burrow. I mean, not a horrible team. And then the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, these losses aren't that bad. So I don't think the Giants are as bad as people really think they are. They're coming off just an ugly performance against the Eagles where they only put up 3 points. I think the Giants are in bounce back mode after something like that, man. They're going to want to show up after such an ugly loss where they just couldn't even score. They're going to want to do something better than that. Steelers, yeah, I know they have a good record, like I said, but I think they were a little bit of a fraudulent 3-0 early on. I mean, the teams that they've beaten aren't exactly the best. I mean, they beat Bo Nix in his second week, which isn't as impressive. Chargers, I mean, they're going through some growing pains. That offense isn't very good for the Chargers. They don't have a whole lot of weapons there. The Raiders, we know they suck. The Jets have just been making unbelievable mistakes. So Pittsburgh, I mean, their schedule has definitely been easier than the Giants' schedule. Pittsburgh, they're the better team, obviously. I mean, they're laying almost a touchdown at home, so they are the better team, but I think they're laying too many points. They're playing a second straight primetime game here. They played on Sunday night, and this was Russell Wilson's first game, and he wasn't actually as good as he looked. He was really bad in the first half, and he still was close to like 50% completions. He did throw for 264 yards, which doesn't look that bad, but I don't know. I think there were maybe some big plays that made it kind of look a little bit misleading. He did look okay on his feet as well, even though he's an older dude, but the Jets made a bunch of mistakes in this game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, again, threw a couple of turnovers. One was crucial when the Jets were up 15-6. Huge interception that wound up leading to this momentum starting touchdown for the Steelers that completely changed the game. And then kind of the floodgates just opened after that. But the Steelers offense wasn't really doing that well before that. But this does mean the Steelers are on a shorter week than the Giants are, like I said, because the Giants played earlier on Sunday. And the Steelers do have Jaden Daniels up next, assuming that he's back, which is something I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I don't know if that's cause for a look ahead or not, but I think the Steelers could overlook the Giants just because everybody makes fun of them and they don't have a good record and they're just not a very good team. So it is possible Pittsburgh overlooks them for that reason. And I think this is going to be a defensive game, man. I mean, the total's down from 38 to 36.5 with juice to the under. So it looks like it's continuing to go under, despite 79% of the tickets on the over and 99% of the cash on the over. I don't know about that. 99% of the cash, I think, is probably inaccurate. But whatever the case may be, it does look like there has been some actual movement driving this total down a bit. So either way, it's expected to be a low-scoring, ugly game. You're getting 6.5 points in a game that's supposed to be this low scoring. Those points are worth more, man. So I do lean to the Giants side in that one, and it looks like it's going to be a defensive battle. Two teams that aren't very good offensively and two good defenses. The under might also be worth a look in that one. Let's get to my other two plays before I get out of here. The Sunday plays. One is going to be on the Washington Redskins, man, the football team. I'm refusing to call them the Commanders. It's the worst name possible. There's a lot going on in this game. The Bears have flipped from a 1.5 point road underdog to a 2.5 point favorite, and it looks like it might even get to 3. I don't know if we're going to see the 3 here or not. The 3s aren't out there right now, but I don't know. Maybe you could just wait and see if you do actually get the 3, but it looks like the public is on Washington because the public likes high-scoring offenses, so 68% of tickets, but 75% of the cash on Washington. I think the public is maybe going to be a little bit mitigated if they know that Jaden Daniels is hurt, and I don't think he's playing in this game, and that's why the line is like this. If Jaden Daniels was playing, Washington would be a favorite at home, even if the odds makers are going to tell you the Bears are the slightly better team, because the Bears absolutely, without a doubt, have the better defense, but Washington has the better offense, and I think if Jaden Daniels was playing, there'd be no way that the Bears would be lined as a 3-point road favorite here. So Jaden Daniels is not going to play, according to what this line looks like right now. He got hurt early in this game last week in a game where I lost again trying to take the Carolina Panthers. I thought it was a bad spot for Washington because I thought they were going to be looking ahead because this game was supposed to be the rookie QB battle between number 1 and number 2, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, and now it looks like it might not be that. And I'll talk about why I think that actually is not that good for the Bears in a second. But Washington, they lost Jaden Daniels, and I know it is against the Panthers, but Marcus Mariota came in. He's a pretty experienced quarterback at the NFL level, and he came in and he did well, and he fits this offense, man. This Cliff Kingsbury offense, he can run a little bit with his feet. I mean, I know he's not Jaden Daniels, but he can play in the same style of offense that Jaden Daniels plays. And in Washington, I think that's why they got Mariota, like why they're doing this, because they have two quarterbacks that are able to fit into a similar type of offense. So they really didn't miss a beat at all. Mariota played most of this game, and Washington's offense was still totally on fire. Granted, it was against a really bad Panthers team, but still, I like that. I mean, and it gives Mariota basically like a game under his belt, and it still puts us in the injured player theory spot here because Washington, they know that they lost Jaden Daniels. I don't know if we can call him a star quarterback yet, but they lost their starting quarterback. So I think that means Washington's going to step it up to play for Marcus Mariota, man. Because when it's that first game where that starting quarterback of yours is not playing and your backup is starting, the team tends to step it up that first game behind them to try to help them win that game. So that's the spot that Washington's in. It's the injured player theory spot. I know they have a divisional game up next, but it's against a Giants team they already beat. I don't think they're going to be looking ahead to that. I think they still think this is a big game, man, against the Chicago Bears team that has been playing pretty well to start the season, although the Bears, they are 0-2 on the road, man. They lost to the Texans and the Colts on the road. Granted, those might have been games where they were overlooking or they just didn't care as much about AFC opponents because they're out-of-conference opponents. And it was earlier in Caleb Williams' career, and he only had one game under his belt prior to that. So he was still getting into his groove, and he started playing better after that. But I think we can slow it down a little bit because look at what Jaden Daniels, look at what Caleb Williams, look at the teams he was able to beat. The Rams, they're not good defensively, and they didn't even put up that many points against the Rams. The Panthers, terrible defensively. Jaguars, pretty terrible defensively. So Williams put up some good numbers in those games, but against bad defenses. And yes, I know Washington is also a bad defense. Excuse me. So Williams may be able to still put up some points here, but I think that the spot is not the best for Chicago for a couple of reasons. One being, they're coming out of a bye, and they went into that bye on a 3-game win streak, man. 3 basically, or at least 2 blowout wins going into that bye. When you go into the bye on a win streak like that, that is not as helpful, man. I always talk about this. You go into the bye on a win streak, you have nothing to fix, basically. Everything's going well for you. You want to go into that, you want the bye to happen when it's helpful to you and when you're going into that bye on like a bad note, because then you have things to fix. So with the Bears, everything was working for them, so they don't have anything to fix here, man. So I think that bye is just going to basically serve to stop their momentum a little bit. They're winning momentum. They don't want to go into a bye there when everything is rolling. So I think that's not good. They last played, they crushed Jacksonville in that first London game of Jacksonville's there. But Bears, obviously, I mean, they're traveling back from London, but they've had the bye week, so the travel spot doesn't really matter. Not really a huge edge one way or the other as far as the travel spot is concerned. But the other thing about Chicago is this was supposed to be Williams against Daniels, man, the big rookie matchup. And I think if the Bears and Williams, they don't actually get that matchup and they have to face Mariota instead, they don't get to face Daniels, I think the game means a little bit less than because of that, because they don't get that matchup that they want. And they have the guy who's still actually one of the 2 draft picks. And he comes in, he wants to face Jaden Daniels, man. He doesn't want to face Marcus Mariota. So I think that is a little bit disappointing as well. So maybe that will affect Chicago a little bit there as well, because they don't get to face the rookie quarterback that they wanted to face. They wanted it to be that rookie quarterback battle there. So we're getting points with Washington home. I don't know if it's going to get to 3 or not, but I'm going to take the points with Washington. Right now it's 2.5. Leafy, what's up, man? Oh, thank you, man. You like watching it even though you don't know about sports? Yeah, hopefully I'm going to get some of these games right this time. Georgia stuff. I talked about Georgia, Texas a little bit, but Georgia is off this week, I think, so I didn't talk about it as much. I talked about Texas Vandy. If you go watch my college football video, yeah, I know. I got to try to take it slow, yeah. Dude, I just go into autistic mode and I just go through it, man. I'm trying to get through it. You're drifting your car while I'm spurring out about football. I like it, man. Hopefully that provides you with some tunes. Leafy, yeah, what's up, man? It's like fall. It's very leafy outside, especially in New England. All right, and my final play, I told you it's on the Sunday night game because I always play the Sunday night game, and I know we missed a better number on this, but I already talked about the fact that I thought this was going to be a good spot to play this. I'm playing the Dallas Cowboys plus 4.5 in this one. I think this is a spot to take Dallas. I know that the look ahead on this was 7 before the 49ers had a couple of more injuries last week. So yes, I would have rather have had the 7. Maybe I should have taken it. I usually don't take those lines a week early, man. It was a 7 before last week's games played. The 49ers would have been a 7-point favorite, or they were a 7-point favorite in this game. And I had identified this as a spot where I wanted to take the Cowboys anyway, because I knew the Cowboys were coming off that embarrassing loss against Detroit. They had gone into the bye, and the 49ers were playing the Chiefs last week. So the 49ers are coming off having to play a game while the Cowboys are on bye, and the 49ers, it was a big step-up game for them against the Chiefs. So I was hoping the 49ers would win that game. I mean, not only because I bet the game, but because I think it would set up a better situation here to take the Cowboys. But I think it's still a spot to take the Cowboys here, man. We didn't get the 7 because, well, I didn't get the 7 at the very least because I didn't take it a week early, even though I identified this as a spot that I was probably going to be on. But I usually at least like to see like what happens in the previous week just to see what type of situation it sets up. So unfortunately, can't get that. I think the 4.5s are mostly gone too, and it's 4, but not that much of a difference between those two numbers. 49ers have 53% of tickets and 55% of the cash as it stands right now, but I'm not sure that's going to continue to be the case because what public bettor is going to look at this game happening on Sunday night and want to play Dallas after what we've seen out of Dallas? I mean, the two really good opponents that they faced, Baltimore and the Lions, they lost to both of them. And the Baltimore game wasn't as close as the final score looked. I mean, the Ravens went into their house and they really took it to Dallas. That was a 28-6 game in the fourth quarter, although Dallas at least showed that they didn't give up in that game. And then Dallas, of course, they're coming off a historically bad game, and I think Dallas had not lost a game by a margin like that since like the 1980s or something like that. They lost 47-9 to the Detroit Lions. It doesn't get more embarrassing than that. And they went into a bye on that note. That is when you want to have the bye. Talking about a good spot to have a bye, you get the bye when you had your most embarrassing loss in the last like several decades. Well, not several, but the last like few decades. Totally embarrassing loss for Dallas. Everybody was memeing Jerry Jones looking all sad with the score overlay there. I think this is going to be a get-right spot for Dallas. This is going to be a spot where they show up focused, man, after such a horrendous game there. I think you are only going to get a focused effort out of Dallas this time. And the good news for Dallas is that all three of their losses this year were at home. So maybe they get a little bit complacent at home, or I don't know what the deal is. Although, granted, yeah, it was against a Saints team before they were massively injured, and then the Ravens and the Lions. So they did face the toughest opponents that they faced at home as well for the most part. But they're undefeated on the road, baby. They're 3-0 on the road, and now they get another road game here. So I do think that actually will help Dallas as well, because they don't have to listen to the home fans making fun of them and talking about how much they suck and how much they sucked against the Lions. So I like Dallas for those reasons. I think it puts them in a positive spot, a good spot to focus here, man. Going out on the road to play the 49ers, who also Dallas might want to beat the 49ers because the 49ers have advanced past Dallas in the playoffs the last couple of years, including beating Dallas head-to-head in the playoffs, I think, 2 years ago. So Dallas might have a little extra chip on their shoulder for that reason as well, because San Fran has been the better team in the last couple of seasons, and of course made the Super Bowl. 2 of the last 4 years. I mean, whatever the case is, Dallas. I mean, yeah, they may have a chip on their shoulder for all of those reasons. So yeah, I think it's a positive spot for Dallas, and then for the 49ers side of things, I think it's a worse spot, man, because they played last week while Dallas was off, and this was a step-up game. I was on San Francisco in this game. San Francisco didn't play as bad as the score looks, really. I mean, it was a close game statistically, but Brock Purdy, it was like whenever it looked like San Francisco had a chance to do something, man, Brock Purdy was making very crucial turnovers, like at the worst possible times, and that really is what did San Francisco in that game. San Francisco was within 2 points going into the fourth quarter here. They were close to getting Super Bowl revenge here, man. That was a big game for San Francisco, looking to get revenge on Kansas City for beating them in the Super Bowl last year. It doesn't get that much bigger as far as revenge is concerned there, and San Francisco wound up not being able to get there. They lost Brandon Ayuk in the game, which I think is part of the reason why the line is dropped, although he's not going to alone influence the line to that degree. But this 49ers team, man, they don't have that much depth, really, to be honest, and they're without a lot of key components now, man. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is back yet. He isn't, right? Let me just make sure of that, because they're without a lot of these guys, man. Yeah, it was Mason again last week, and he didn't do that well last week against a pretty good Kansas City defense, though. But I don't know if McCaffrey's going to be back yet, so they've been without him. Kittle, I think, is a little bit banged up. Ayuk got injured, so he's done for the season, actually, I think. So Jawan Jennings, is that his name? I think he's now having to slide into the number one spot for San Francisco's wideouts. I think Deebo Samuel, I kept saying that I thought he was back. I actually thought he was back. I don't think he is. So this is a very injured San Francisco team, and they have injuries on defense too, with Greenlaw, the linebacker who tore his Achilles during the Super Bowl, just running out onto the field basically. And basically as soon as that happened, the entire game fell apart. So he is a crucial component as well. He matters to this defense as well. So all these injuries are really starting to pile up, man. So I think the spot is good to play the Dallas side here. I think we may see the market shift around a little bit so that it's not indicating that more of the cash is on the 49ers side here. I don't really know, but the Super Bowl loser curse is real, man. The Super Bowl losers, they tend to not do well that next season, not do anywhere nearly as well, really. And it seems to be happening to the 49ers here, man. They seem to have the curse right now. So I'm going to be on Dallas in this one for all those reasons. And I think that's it, right? I talked about the Monday night game. I talked about a lot of these games. I didn't talk about a lot of the 4 p.m. slate games, but all right, a little bit of a shorter video there, but you can go check out my college football video that I just did as well. It's late, man. It's 3 a.m., and I'm going to have to fly out I'm going to have to leave in a few hours, basically. This is not good, but one more time, my NFL plays. I have a Thursday night game on the Rams +3. I have Washington +2.5, or if it gets to 3, that would be better. Sunday night, Dallas +4.5. Trying to be a little bit more selective this time. Those are the 3 plays. Go check out the college football video as well. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Leafy, you want me to explain music to people? I can try to do that. I listen to a lot of different music. Thanks for hanging out, Ted, Leafy, and whoever else is being anonymous right now and hanging out as viewers here. I'm Tower Gang Toad, of course, so you can follow me on Twitter. Follow the Tower Gang Podcast, the most offensive podcast that you will ever see. Patreon.com/TowerGain to throw us some support. You get live pre-show, live post-show, bonus content, hang out with us in a Telegram. We're going to be at Bohemian Grove upcoming Friday, Saturday, man. Tower Gang is going to be live Saturday in Central Florida, so you can go look that up. There may still be tickets available for that, so that's going to be episode 200. We're doing it live at that event. Go check that out. And go check out flapper.net as well, FLAPPR.net. They are the world's finest smut blog, and I am running betting odds for their Milkers of the Year award, where they give out that award, or multiple awards, really, in multiple different categories to some of the famous Milkers of the Year, the famous women who have nice racks, women that have done something substantial or funny or whatever the case may be over the course of the year. And they also write about the NFL. They do a lot of funny stuff. They infuse humor into everything. They talk about football, history, whatever, politics a little bit as well. It's good stuff, which Ted just said. But I think Ted was referring to Better Off Dead, baby. Good stuff. Good stuff all around from everybody, from everything. All right, man, let's hope we get some wins. I need to break this bad loss streak I'm on in the NFL. College football has been a little bit better so far. So let's get it done. And I'm going to be back. I might have to be back in the morning because I'm sure we have NHL. We do have NFL too, but we have NHL, NBA, and maybe college football. Maybe I should try to briefly do a video and talk about those as I usually do in the morning. And we'll see what I can do from Florida while I'm out there. I'll just have a phone out there for a couple of days, but that's why I'm getting these bigger football covering the entire week now beforehand. Pokies, I like the Pokies, man. The nipples that are coming out, I do like that. I'm going to bed right now. I will. This is the only time I'm going to obey your commands, sir. Have a good one, guys. Peace out.